Hey, welcome to the Board Game Network. This is James. I'm going to be showing you how to play this game called KanaGawa, put out by Yellow, and it plays 2 to 4 people in less than an hour, about 45 minutes or so. And it is pleasantly different type game. It's got a different style to it than any games I've seen before. You've got the master, the grand master, and you've got the assistant, and you have a painting studio, and you're learning to paint prints. So all you do is throw this out here, line these things up in color order, in ascending order by number there. Each of you gets one of these studios at the beginning of the game, and they're identical except for right here they show you a different kind of landscape that you can paint at the beginning of the game. So the top part is the beginning of your print that you're making, and the bottom part is your studio. You're going to shuffle these cards up, then whoever the Grand Master is, they're going to have the Grand Master and the assistant together. Whoever the Grand Master is going to deal out cards on this mat here. And if there's 2 players, you're only going to fill up 2 columns. 3 players is 3 columns. 4 players, all 4 columns. And this shows whether it's face up or face down. If it's in dark red, it's face down. So at the beginning of the game, let's say we're playing 4 players. So I would put face up, face up, face up, face up. And you'll notice I didn't shuffle those very good. I got all of the same color on the back, but you got different colors, and they show you essentially what can be on the other side. It doesn't mean it has to be on the other side, but there's a character back here, which means there may be a person on this side in the print, but it doesn't have to be. There are ones with animals, ones with buildings, and ones with trees. And that one was supposed to be face down because of the dark red, so you shouldn't have seen that one. Okay, so the first player is going to go first, and he decides whether he wants to take a column or continue to learn. And so you look at that and you might go, well, I really want this one here for my studio. And so you go ahead and take it. Or you can say, I'm going to pass and continue learning. So let's say somebody in the first round took that one. When you take it, you can either make your studio better down here, or you can add to your print up here. And there's some rules to that. So that one's off. Let's say that one's been taken. So we've had 3 people that want to stay in and study. So the second round goes, and the Grand Master again is going to turn that one face up. It's going to skip this one. You only fill in the columns that already have cards. So that one would go face up, and this one would go face up. So at this point, each person that was still in, whoever took the card in the first round, they're essentially out until there's a new round going, because they decided they were going to go out on their own and start their prints, start painting. Everybody else that's still in studying now looks and says, you know what, is there a column there that I want, or do I want to stay in for the 3rd round? So let's say somebody took that column, and it just goes in order of whoever the Grand Master is, and then clockwise around, and they get to pick whichever column they want that's still available. So that was the 2nd round, and then we go to the 3rd round, and you'll notice that one's face down and that one's face down. So then once again, and you have to take stuff on the 3rd round because there's no 4th round. So let's say the Grand Master took this one. And so you have to play all 3 of these cards. You can't hold on to them. And so the other player would take that column. So right here I can paint trees is all I can paint right now, is the green backed cards that have that symbol on them. If the symbol matches. I start with 2 paint brushes. You'll see this right here on my studio that I should start with 2 paint brushes. I have 1 arrow and I can paint landscapes. I can paint trees. So since I can paint trees, I will put that one at the top. And at the end of the game you're scoring points. You're scoring victory points here. And so that's these circles with stuff, and so you'll notice there's points on all this stuff here. So that's what you're really looking for. But that's the only one I can paint because I only got 1 green one. And when you paint something, you have to put a paintbrush in the circle that's by that icon. Okay, so I only have 1 tree circle, so I could only paint 1 card that has a tree on it. So even if I had another one, I couldn't paint it this turn. Okay, so I will not be able to paint this one, which has the mountain there, or this one, which has the sun. So what I'm going to do with those 2 cards is I'm going to increase, make my studio better. So I'm going to put those 2 cards like this, and then from now on I can I can paint that kind of card. I can paint the print as long as I can match the symbol that's on the print with this. And you have to have a paintbrush in that icon. I have 2 available right now, but that's all I can paint. So these ones are gone off of here. Okay, so the next round, whoever has the assistant, if somebody took the assistant, they now become the Grand Master. So they get the Grand Master, and then they would be the first player. And so they're going to deal out cards. So there's the first round. And then if anybody wants to go ahead and start and take something, then the second round. And then the third round. Something like that. So let's go ahead and take cards again and see what we have. I'm just kind of randomly taking stuff instead of strategically taking stuff here to show you. So in this one I could paint this one because it's got the tree symbol there. I could paint this one because it's got the yellow, the sun. And I could not paint this one. It's got 2 mountain symbols down here, and I do not have 2 mountains down here that both would have to have a paintbrush on them. So this one already has a paintbrush on it, so I could paint that one without doing anything. The one with the sun I could paint, but I would have to put my other paintbrush down there. Then I could paint that one, and this one would have to be added to my studio. Now your 1 arrow, the purpose for this arrow is it allows you to move 1 paintbrush for every arrow. So if I was going to paint part of my print, but it was like on the ocean wave here, but it was but I had a paintbrush over here, I could move that one over here and then paint a different one. But I can only do that once on my turn because I've only got 1 arrow. Now every time you add to your print or make your studio better, you need to check these cards out here. These are diplomas, and you get diplomas when you've earned them. You can only have 1 of each color, so once you have a color you cannot have any of the other ones. And once you stop and say, when I qualify for this one, you have to say yes I want it or no I don't. And if you don't, you can't have it later. You have to earn one of the better ones. So if even later that the other ones disappear because somebody else takes them, you cannot take this one because you've already passed it up. So here's what these diplomas are for. This is for having 3 paintbrushes, which there are cards in here that give you they'll show you a paintbrush on there, and then you'll get another paintbrush. So this is if you have 3 paintbrushes, if you have 4 paintbrushes. These ones have to do with your studio. These ones have to do with your print. This one you get if you have 2 identical, it's got an equal sign, 2 identical kinds of painting styles that you can paint. This one's 3, this one's 4. This one's if you have 2 arrows or 3 arrows. And you'll notice that these 2 give you the assistant. So if I take that, once I qualify for it, I would take the assistant, and then I would get to be the Grand Master in the next round. This one gives you an extra paintbrush. So as soon as you take that, you get another paintbrush. You can immediately use that paintbrush to paint something. And let's see what we got here. We got 3 trees, 4 trees, or 5 trees. I have only 1 tree that I've painted so far. And you'll notice this one gives you a storm cloud. There are only 3 storm clouds in this whole game. And a storm cloud allows you to cover up the season. Each of these cards has a season. You got winter, summer, spring, and fall. And it allows you to cover the season. And the point of covering the season is you get victory points at the end of the game based on the biggest run of the same kind of seasons in your paint, in your print, that are together contiguously. So the storm cloud allows you to make it whatever season you want it to be. So when you're putting these prints down, you want to put the same season together if you can. And that will help you strategically decide which columns to take also. This one gives you an assistant. Here are 2 different characters. So if you look at the characters, the cards on the characters, you'll notice that they have different pictures. So you're looking for 2 different ones, 3 different ones, or 3 of the same one. This one is 2 different buildings. Here's a building here. 3 different buildings, 4 different buildings. That one gives you a storm cloud. Here's the assistant. This one gives you 2, if you have these 2 animals, and this one is if you have those 2 animals, this one if you have these 3 animals, and so they have to match the picture of which animals they are. This one gives you a paintbrush, and the assistant. And then they also give you victory points at the end of the game. So this game goes until the deck is out or somebody has painted 11 parts to their print. And this counts as a part, this very first one you started with. You count that one in there too. So I've got 4 parts to the print right now. And so it goes until the round ends on whoever has, once somebody has 11 or the deck runs out, you go ahead and finish that round. So your scoring at the end happens like this. You get 1 point per lesson card in your print. You get 1 point per lesson card in the longest sequence of identical seasons. So at this point I would have 2 of the same season here, so that would be a bonus of 2 points. You look at any of your lesson cards and see these points here, and that gives you extra points. You look at the points on your diplomas, and 2 points for whoever has the Grand Master at the end of the game. He gets a bonus of 2 points. So you're just going to total those points up at the end of the game and see who the winner is. There is a symbol in here I didn't show you. This one here says you lose victory points at the end of the game. So that's a -1. Here's a wild that can paint any kind of print. This one here, this hand, lets you keep a card in your hand between rounds, so you don't have to play every card out that you take. So it lets you hold one back, which is really nice, but those are pretty hard to come by. There's not very many of them in there. And you'll see this one's worth 2 victory points. So if you play it this way, you get the print, the value for the print, but if you play it this way, you get the value for the studio. So you're always stuck with this, well, God, I would like this side, but I would really like this side too. You know, that dichotomy of pulling, which is really nice in games when you have to make the decision. And it's hard to make between 2 good choices. That's how you play KanaGawa, put out by Yellow. Make sure you tune into all of our videos here at the Board Game Network.